Yo Samdy Sam is a YouTuber known for creating videos exploring autism in specific and neurodivergence in general. She also helps entrepreneurs, solopreneurs and business owners who are neurodivergent in growing their businesses. Recently, Sam put on a 3-day retreat for ADHD and autistic entrepreneurs. So how was it? Let's find out. Hello and welcome to Through the Noise Coaching. My name is Lee and I'm a leadership coach specialising in growing the careers of mid to senior neurospices. And I'm also a neurodivergent business owner myself. And so this retreat seemed exactly like something that I might need. Now, I need to start out by saying I've never been on a retreat before. I'm a little bit too much of that hyperactive ADHD and that hyper-rational autistic that is generally confused by the idea of relaxing and also a bit put off by, I don't know, spirituality and wellness kind of stuff. But I thought, let's give it a go. Not all retreats are like this, and it's actually the business side of the Wild Brains retreat that attracted me to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk you through what the retreat was like in general and then my 5 main takeaways from taking part. So here we go. So starting with the fundamentals, the retreat was hosted in the Jugend Forest in the Netherlands. I probably butchered that pronunciation. It's not the easiest place to get to. You can't really get there by public transport. However, there were loads of lovely people willing to do station pickups and just generally be helpful, which really shows the calibre of people that we had on the retreat. So getting there wasn't actually the problem I was worried it was going to be. The place itself was absolutely beautiful and they have an emphasis on sustainability. So there was a lot of wild plants growing there that were absolutely gorgeous. They kept chickens and the sustainability was really at the heart of what they were doing, and it really showed how they were caring for the local environment. So a huge win for it there. We stayed in these big glamping tents, which I wasn't so sure about because I'm not that into camping, but actually having a tent with a nice cozy double bed in it that was incredibly comfortable, and the quietness of being in the middle of the country instead of the city was actually really nice, and I kind of slept even better than I think I do at home, so that was actually a huge win. There were only 3 downsides to the glamping experience, and I think your mileage might vary here. This is perhaps a little bit too specific to me, but one of them was I came back to my tent, I think after brushing my teeth or something like that, and there was an absolutely huge spider on the zip of my tent, so I couldn't get into my tent unless I cleared up the spider. Now, I'm not terrified of spiders, but I don't particularly want them to touch me, so navigating the shoo away spider, get away safely so I could get into my tent, and then the paranoia every time I unzipped my tent after that. You know, it's nature, it is what it is, and that's part of the experience, I guess. But the other thing is that the mosquitoes, oh my gosh, there were so many mosquitoes, and I have very tasty blood. So you'll probably see I've got like bites on my arm and things like that still, as I've only been back a few days. That's not fun. Again, your mileage might vary here, it's just because I'm particularly tasty. And I put a mozzie repellent on at night time, but in the morning was when they got me, when I wasn't expecting them to. So keep that in mind if you ever go. Finally, I have a pretty bad sense of direction, if I'm honest. And while I made a point of learning the route between the tent that I was staying in and the showers and the loos and all that kind of stuff, it looks completely different in the night. And so there I was with my phone torch just shining a path in front of me, feeling really, really worried that I was going to get lost in the middle of the night and not find my way back and wake up completely eaten by mosquitoes. Thankfully that didn't happen. I did manage to find my way back, but it was quite anxiety inducing every time I went to like brush my teeth or whatever after sunset. Food itself was really nice, although catering towards people who are autistic and perhaps maybe have a more bland palate. It wouldn't necessarily going to hit the mark for everyone from that perspective, but for the most part it was pretty nice and it was pretty healthy stuff. The location was amazing, so we had 2 buildings that we did workshops in. One was this building made out of recycled material, so all the wood was recycled. It very much looked handcrafted, which gave it a lot of charm and quaintness, and yeah, just a really, really nice building. The other location was this massive teepee that kind of unzipped and opened up, and we needed that too because it was so hot on the days that we were there. We did the more kind of intimate activities like a sound bath or the money mindset session, or a silent disco was available in the teepee as well, which made for a nice kind of change of location and a change of mood depending on what we were working on in that particular workshop. So with the fundamentals kind of out the way, I actually want to talk about my 5 takeaways from the retreat. So in no particular order, here they come. Part 1, the importance of having a tribe. One of the things that became very clear to me very early on in the retreat is really how important it is to be able to be and interact with people who are like you, who are similar to you. And it really put into perspective how lucky I am that in my day-to-day life I've actually managed to surround myself with amazing, wonderful neurodivergent people, and I don't lack for amazing neurodivergent people to interact with. But for some of the participants, I'd never been in a room full of neurodivergent people, and so there's quite a profound effect for these people stepping into that area for the first time in a space where they were just accepted, they were just among like-minded people, and there's something really profound about being in that space, especially witnessing people there for the first time. Given that we suffer as a result of the double empathy problem, where neurodivergents are very capable of communicating amongst themselves and neurotypicals are very capable of communicating amongst themselves, but the problem occurs when there's neurotypical neurodivergent interaction going on. And because the people we are mostly surrounded with are neurotypicals, we're going to be the odd one out in most situations. So to be in an environment where that just wasn't the case, where everyone got it, everyone understood, and there weren't any of those kind of communication barriers, that was really, really huge. Being in a room full of people who just get it, who validate our experiences, who help us contextualize and understand ourselves more, it's just really important, it's really beautiful, and I'm so glad that I got to be part of that experience. And this is why having a tribe is so powerful. It tells you that you're not alone, and there's a place that you have to fit in without working super hard to try and squeeze into something that doesn't work for you. And that's really important, and that's really beautiful. Part 2. Stimming is normal. So I never really remember that clearly, stimming or being a fidget, before I had my ADHD diagnosis. But I remember very clearly in my diagnosis, I don't remember the exact wording of the question, but there was a question about whether I fidget or anything like that, and I suddenly had the realization that I'd just been sat there kind of playing with my sock, like pulling it half on and off my foot over and over again, so many times. In the process of my diagnosis, I move my legs a lot when I'm seated. I'm talking with my hands throughout my entire YouTube videos because it keeps me occupied and keeps me doing things. I fiddle with pens in meetings, I take them apart, all that kind of stuff when I'm bored. I just hadn't really realised what that was at the time. I'm very good at masking, however, and can suppress the urge or make it come out in more subtle ways. You know, things like just playing with your hair while you're talking. It's less intrusive than obviously fidgeting and moving around. And being very good at masking, I've got a lot of practice in kind of squishing that down or doing a more acceptable form of stimming. As a result of this, the openness and the embracing of stimming, fidgeting, whatever you need to do in the retreat was just a real eye-opener for me, and I didn't realise how much I needed that experience. Upon arrival, we were treated to a fidget as part of our welcome pack, and I've never had a fidget before, and I didn't think I needed a fidget, but actually I loved it, and it was in my hand throughout most of the retreat, especially the workshops. I just loved the moving it around, playing with it, taking it apart, putting it back together. I kept it on my person constantly, and I really felt like it helped me concentrate and kind of kept me together in a way that I didn't realise that I was missing. One of my fellow participants was also super keen on origami, and he had stocked up with so much origami paper that he was more than willing to teach us how to do it, to lend the paper out so that we could make stuff ourselves. And so I was also crafting a lot of origami, practicing the ones that he taught me, and I found that a really mindful way to keep my hands busy and keep a little bit of a distraction in my mind, not too big a one, so that I could concentrate a little bit better on what was going on. And I really enjoyed that, and I've bought my own origami paper since coming home. There was an embracement of dancing with multiple silent discos where you could control your own volume so it's not too loud, and you could dance and be in a judgment-free zone and just enjoy moving your body. Now, I'm not a dancer, and I'd rather engage in the interesting conversations around me than do dancing, but I can completely relate to how amazing that is. I mean, I love exercise, I love movement, and for me, moving my body is something that is so freeing and so important. And even though I'm not a dancer, I can so understand the appeal for other people. I particularly noticed how much I'd grown to appreciate the stimming and the fidgeting when it was taken away from me. In that I was at a social event the next day, and there were only a few people there that I knew, which was okay, but when you're not in conversation with the people you know and are not quite able to insert yourself in a conversation with people you don't know yet, I felt a little bit awkward, and I had some origami paper in my bag, and I was so tempted to just get it out and start folding as just something to do, maybe to bring in conversation, but I was worried that wouldn't be acceptable in that situation, in the middle of a pub garden. And so I didn't, and I distinctly remember thinking that and feeling that and wanting to do that but suppressing the urge and going back to masking again. Fortunately, I did find a way into conversations and socializing, so it was only a short period of time that I was feeling a little bit lost. Part 3, you don't need to work crazy hard. As part of a completely different conversation on the last day, the topic of working hours came up. And I wasn't surprised to hear that I was working more than other people, but I was surprised to hear how much I was working more than other people. Being driven and having an amazing work ethic is something that I've always prided myself on. I've always been able to push hard and just work really hard at things that others might not have done. And in my series on ADHD and entrepreneurship, I pulled up a particular study where they talked about how the drive, the work ethic was an advantage for these ADHD entrepreneurs. I guess I had subconsciously taken as a fact that I'm an incredibly hard worker and therefore will need to work incredibly hard and more than others to be able to achieve in a world that is not built for me. And I don't mean to imply that other people there weren't hard workers or weren't really giving it their all, because they were amazing, passionate people, but they'd realised that something that I hadn't, that drive doesn't mean hard work all the time. It doesn't mean giving 100% all the time so that you can do the best that you can do all the time. Something in between is acceptable. Hard work and drive don't have to mean working constantly. It doesn't have to mean feeling guilty for taking a break and playing with your Switch. It's important to get rest, and that's something I knew academically, but I don't think I really realised that it was a possibility for me until we had this conversation. What becomes difficult for me is that I'm not yet at my goals yet. I don't feel like I can relax and take it slow. I feel like there's so much more that I want to achieve and that I like to keep pushing, to keep moving forwards. But I've kind of hit that cliche of I don't need to work harder, I need to work smarter. I need to leverage technology, I need to leverage resources and assistance that can help me without needing me to divert all my time into this particular thing. Lightening my workload doesn't mean that I have to pick up all the other stuff that I'm not immediately doing instead. Lightening my workload could just mean I work less, and that's okay. It'll take me a while, I think, to internalise this concept, if I'm honest. I'm used to a career that's full of hustle, full of busyness, full of working hard. But I like the idea of working less while achieving. I like the idea of not having to work so hard all the time. So this is a goal that I can work towards, to try and make myself feel not even balanced. I feel like I'm balanced, but maybe in a place where I can take more rest and be more joyful and be okay with that. Part 4 is the importance of rest. I alluded to this in the last part, but I know academically that rest is important. I know I need to be able to sleep to function. I know if I've been doing exercise, like I've been training jiu-jitsu all day, my body needs to physically rest and relax and recuperate, which is why I'm sitting down to film the video. What I didn't know though is that there are different kinds of tired, and different kinds of tired need different kinds of rest in order to rejuvenate. In a wonderful workshop by Sara Kedge, we looked at different kinds of tired, like mental, emotional, physical, and all sorts of different kinds of tired. And what are the actual signs that we're feeling that kind of tired? And if we can identify that we're feeling that kind of tired, we can come up with steps that actually help us to overcome that kind of tired and rest in a way that is much more beneficial than just not resting, but also then doing the wrong kind of resting. So for example, when I'm mentally tired after a long day of doing lots of braining, I say that my brain hurts. I mean, I physically feel like my brain hurts, but anyone who talks to me, I'll tell them that my brain hurts. I'm slow to respond to a conversation. I don't really have the ability to think, to participate in a conversation properly. And instead, I kind of just sit and I almost dissociate. I kind of stare off into the distance because my brain is just not ready. It hurts. I'm mentally tired when I'm in that situation. Now, the rest that I need when I'm mentally tired is different to the rest that I need when I'm physically tired. I'm physically tired now, but I can sit here and record a YouTube video having done my yoga and stretching out my muscles earlier. But mentally tired, I wouldn't be able to do that. I wouldn't be able to just do yoga and move forwards. I need different kinds of rest. Instead, I need to be still. I need to not feel the pressure of responsibility. I need to be alone, and I need to just take that time to stare off into space, to reset my brain without having to do or think about anything else, so that I can rest my brain in the way it needs, so that I can, you know, be rejuvenated and do things again. I also encountered a profound statement from one of my fellow participants, and I don't remember exactly what he said, so I'm gonna kind of paraphrase what I took from it. But it's basically that rest isn't this unproductive thing that we need to feel bad about doing, because in order to work well, in order to be productive and do productive things, we need that rest. That rest is part of it. It's not something that we do instead. It's something that we do for. It's something that enables us to do the productive things in life. So rest isn't unproductive. It is productive. And that makes it okay and valid and important. And for me, that was a huge revelation that I hadn't realised before. Part 5. There is no one neurodivergent way forwards. In a room full of my fellow ADHDers and autistics, it was clear that we were a tribe. There was so much that we had in common, and it was absolutely amazing to be with them. But there were also little differences, and much more united us, but these differences were important. Some of the participants were really spiritual and really had experiences that were amazing on a spiritual level as part of the retreat. Others were more hyper-rational like I am, and I have a healthy skepticism about all of that. And I wouldn't say I had a spiritual experience, although I enjoyed it very much, but others did, and that's great for them. Others were really excited when a plate of mushrooms got brought out for dinner because they loved the taste or whatever it is. And I have sensory issues around mushrooms. I couldn't eat that plate and just avoided it at all costs. That's maybe a small example, but here's another one. When I was walking back with a fellow participant on the last day, I remember him saying that he would love it if the retreat was a bit longer because the first and last day both had travelling involved, and travelling created anxiety. But for me, with my ADHD chaos and my need to do my hobbies, I was feeling a bit stressed about having not done my hobbies, having not done exercise. I was missing my piano like crazy. And so having the retreat be a bit longer would have been a bit more anxiety inducing for me because I wasn't getting to do the fun things that I love to do outside of work and all the other good stuff. All of these were small differences, and there's more that unites us than separates us. That's really important to get across, that we are a tribe and there is a lot that unites us. But these differences are real, and it just goes to show that we're all our own unique people with our own unique neurodivergence, but also our own unique personality. And that difference, that uniqueness, is really important too. So it's not just a conversation of this is what autistics needs, these are the accommodations that ADHDers need, and we just follow what it is on the piece of paper. In reality, everyone is a unique individual and has their own needs, and so it's important to take into account the individual that we're talking to when we have conversations about what could make things better for them. And this really affirms to me that I'm in the right space, because by coaching, I'm not saying you're ADHD so you should do this, you're dyslexic so you should do this, or anything like that. My whole ethos is around finding something that works for the individual, working with them to find a way forward that works for the person in front of me, regardless of their diagnosis. I think that that individuality is something that is super important in the conversation. In the values exercise in the workshop, we had to keep asking ourselves the question, and why is that important to you? To go deeper and deeper and deeper till we reach something that couldn't be broken down anymore. And that became one of our fundamental values. And something that I ended up at that I didn't expect was actually the word awe. I value being amazed. I value being inspired. And so there's one last thought that I want to leave you with, which is on that theme of awe and inspiration. I am in awe of amazing neurodivergent people who are building lives, businesses, careers in a way that works for them and their unique brains in a world that often doesn't. I'm in awe of the amazing creativity and problem-solving skills that I see, and I'm in awe of the community and the tribe and what happens when we bring together a group of like-minded individuals, but let each one of those individuals shine in a way that works for them. And I'm in awe of the potential that's still to come. Thank you for your attention today. Please like, comment and subscribe, and if you haven't already, you might be interested in going back and watching my video on finding your own unique strengths as an amazing neurodivergent person.